Chapter 1. Montreal Nights. The cheap ticking of the wall clock was the loudest sound in the room, louder than the wind scraping against the window, louder than the soft, rhythmic breaths they shared in silence. Benjamin Tremblay sat cross-legged on his twin bed, his back pressed to the wall, arms resting on his knees. He was staring at Jacob Martin, who lay sprawled out with his arms above his head, staring at the ceiling like it held the answers to questions neither of them could ask. The dorm room felt smaller than usual. Maybe it was the tension. Maybe it was the countdown. Jacob turned his head. His deep blue eyes found Benjamin's and held. "I'll leave tomorrow," Jacob said. "I know," Benjamin replied, voice quiet, steady, too steady for what he was feeling. The silence that followed was different. Heavier. Not awkward, not empty. Just full. Like if they spoke too loud, the whole thing would collapse under its own gravity. Jacob sat up, knees brushing against Benjamin's. "Why aren't you saying anything?" "What am I supposed to say, Jake?" Benjamin's eyes narrowed, jaw tight. "That I hate your parents for pulling you away? That I hate that you're leaving? That I've been trying not to think about it for 3 goddamn months." Jacob flinched, but only for a second. "Maybe I wanted to hear it," he whispered. "Maybe I needed to." Benjamin leaned back, exhaling hard. His green eyes locked on Jacob's with a heat that hadn't cooled since the first night they kissed 2 years ago, under a canopy of stars and too much cheap wine. "Then here it is," Benjamin said, voice raw. "I love you, and I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to do when you're gone." Jacob blinked. The words landed like a gut punch, but not a surprise. He looked down at his hands, then reached out and took one of Benjamin's in his own. "Come with me." "Don't," Benjamin warned. "I'm serious. Come to London. We'll figure it out. You could throw away the scholarship I worked my ass off for, walk away from everything I've built here. Jake, I love you, but I can't chase you across an ocean and pretend that's not reckless." Jacob's jaw clenched. "So we're just ending this? Just like that?" "No," Benjamin said, finally letting the first tear slip. "We're pausing it until we're not kids anymore. Until life stops yanking us in opposite directions." Jacob stood and paced the room like he could walk off the heartbreak. "You sound like every rom-com breakup scene ever. Except those couples always find their way back to each other." Benjamin stood too, slowly, stepping toward him. "Then maybe we will." They stared at each other, two boys who'd built a world in quiet corners, in whispered jokes, in late-night shared playlists, and touch-starved goodbyes. "I'm going to write," Jacob said. Benjamin smiled sadly. "I won't read them." "Why the hell not?" "Because if I do, I'll never stop." Jacob kissed him then. Not hard, not desperate, just honest. Lips pressed to lips, memorizing the taste, the curve, the weight of what might have been. And just like that, it was over. Or maybe not. Chapter 2. 11 years and one smile. The Grand Lemire Convention Center in Lyon pulsed with overachievement and espresso. Hospitality leaders from all over the world hustled through the glimmering glass doors, name tags swinging, egos fully pressed into their tailored suits. Benjamin Tremblay was perfectly in his element. He adjusted the collar of his navy blue blazer, the one Clark insisted made him look commanding but approachable, and glanced down at his tablet, flipping through the itinerary like a machine. Clark leaned in, smooth and polished as ever in a gray-checked suit. "Babe, relax. You look like you're about to interrogate someone." "I'm fine," Benjamin replied, tapping his screen. "Just making sure we're prepped for the boutique panel at 2. Clark chuckled and gently rubbed his back. "You're adorable when you go full spreadsheet." Benjamin gave a tight smile. He liked Clark. No, he loved Clark. He was good, dependable, smart. The kind of man you'd build a future with. The kind of man who'd never disappear across an ocean without a plan. So why did everything feel so goddamn off this week? Maybe it was the jet lag. Maybe it was France. Or maybe it was the haunting memory of Lyon's last-minute addition to the convention circuit, the city Jacob Martin once said he'd love to move to just to sip wine and get into trouble. Benjamin shook the thought off. He was being dramatic. Then the universe punched him in the chest. Because at the registration booth, laughing, joking with a receptionist, signature rolled sleeves, and that effortless smile, stood Jacob Martin. Benjamin froze mid-step. Clark, noticing the shift, glanced toward Benjamin's line of sight. "You okay?" Benjamin blinked. I think I forgot something at the hotel. Can you check us in?" Clark frowned. "Sure." Benjamin turned like a man dodging a sniper and power-walked toward the nearest hallway, heart pounding, hands shaking. But he didn't make it 3 steps before the voice he hadn't heard in over a decade hooked him by the spine. "Benji." He turned. Jacob was standing there. Taller, leaner, somehow even more attractive in a laid-back linen shirt, unbuttoned just enough to whisper, "I know I look good, and I'm not sorry." His eyes, those same bright, open sky blues, widened as he stepped forward. "Holy shit," Jacob breathed. "You look—" "Don't," Benjamin said, half smiling. Jacob grinned wider. "Still hate compliments, huh?" Benjamin swallowed. "Still hand them out like candy, huh?" Jacob chuckled, eyes flicking down, then up again like he was trying to believe Benjamin was real. 11 years, and you still sound exactly the same." Benjamin's chest squeezed. "You don't. I got British eyes," Jacob joked. "Comes with tea and chronic emotional repression." Benjamin laughed, too hard and too quickly. It echoed awkwardly. Jacob tilted his head. "Didn't expect to see you here." "Same," Benjamin said. "You're still in entertainment?" "Cruise director now. Big job. Big hat." "No actual hat, but I like to pretend." Benjamin smiled despite himself. God, that voice. Then he heard Clark's voice in the distance. "Ben? They want us on the floor in 5. Benjamin turned. "That's my partner." Jacob's face didn't shift much, but the flicker in his eyes was undeniable. "He seems stable." "He is." Benjamin paused. "How long are you here?" 4 days. Doing a seminar on next-gen guest engagement." Benjamin nodded, forcing calm. "Good luck with it." "You too, Mr. Commanding and Approachable." Benjamin smirked. As he turned to walk away, Jacob called after him, softer this time. "Hey, it's really good to see you." Benjamin didn't turn around. He just said, "Yeah, you too," and walked away, heart thundering in his chest, pulse screaming. You're not over him. Not even close. Chapter 3. Champagne and Chaos. If there was ever a place for Benjamin Tremblay to regain his composure, it should have been the rooftop of the Grand Lumiere, with its panoramic view of the Rhone River and an open bar that was bleeding view of Cliquot. But there he was, standing with Clark at a high table, smiling politely at some Belgian boutique resort rep, while every cell in his body was tuned to one voice. One laugh. One set of goddamn footsteps. Jacob Martin was somewhere in this rooftop crowd, and Benjamin's internal compass refused to point anywhere else. "You're quiet," Clark murmured, brushing his fingers against Benjamin's arm. Benjamin smiled too fast. "Just distracted." "The view." Clark squinted at him. "You've seen this view 5 times today." Benjamin laughed lightly. "Then maybe I'm out of things to say." Just then, the crowd shifted, and like fate had a twisted sense of humor, Jacob appeared at the bar, not 20 feet away, mid-conversation with 2 conference attendees. He was laughing, gesturing wildly, wearing a blazer he clearly didn't want to be in, with his shirt still barely behaving underneath. Benjamin's breath caught. That smile, that spark, that effortless draw. Clark followed his gaze, then slowly turned back to him. "Old friend?" he asked, too casually. Benjamin hesitated just a beat too long. "Yeah, from college. Must have been a good friend." Benjamin didn't answer. Clark's jaw tightened, but he took a sip of champagne and let it go. For now. Moments later, fate, that relentless bitch, twisted the knife. The host of the gala, an over-caffeinated woman in designer heels, clinked her glass. "Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin tonight's showcase, let's get this party started with a little game, shall we?" A murmur of polite intrigue spread through the crowd. She grinned. "We're calling it blind instinct. One person will be blindfolded, and they'll have to find their partner in the crowd using nothing but touch." Benjamin felt his stomach drop. "Don't worry," the host added. "You'll each get paired randomly, unless anyone wants to volunteer a couple." Before Benjamin could blink, Clark raised a hand. "Us." Benjamin whipped his head toward him. "What?" Clark smiled. "You could use a little fun. Come on, let loose." Benjamin stared, caught. The crowd clapped politely. A staffer led him to the center. Benjamin was handed a silky blindfold. "This is ridiculous," he muttered. Clark kissed his cheek. "That's the point. Blindfold on." The world went black. The host's voice boomed again. "Okay, partners, scatter." Benjamin heard the shuffling, the laughter, then silence. He reached forward hesitantly, arms out. The first shoulder he touched was too short. The next had a bracelet. Not Clark. Another person laughed and moved aside. Then, fingers. Familiar. Strong. Gently curled around his wrist. He froze. The scent hit him first. Something citrusy, clean, and unmistakably Jacob. Benjamin's voice was a whisper. "Clark." "No," Jacob murmured, dangerously close. "But I wasn't going to stop you." Benjamin's heart slammed against his ribcage. He pulled the blindfold off. Jacob stood inches away, blue eyes lit with mischief and something else. Something hotter, sadder. "I thought it was you," Benjamin said quietly. "I hoped it was you," Jacob replied. Before anything else could be said, Clark walked up, smiling, but his eyes were sharp. "There you are," he said, taking Benjamin's hand. "Looks like you found the wrong partner." Jacob's face didn't move, but the flicker behind his eyes told the whole story. Benjamin stepped back. "Just a game." Clark's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Right." And as the crowd laughed and cheered behind them, Benjamin felt the chaos bubbling beneath the surface, sparkling, volatile, and impossible to ignore. Chapter 4. Sidewalk Confessions. Lion shimmered under the street lamps like it was in on some secret. The cobbled sidewalks glowed with leftover rain, and distant jazz spilled from a cafe somewhere down the block. The kind of night that practically begged for unresolved feelings to rear their complicated heads. Benjamin needed air. After the rooftop game show humiliation, the awkward clink of cutlery at dinner, and Clark's suspiciously cheerful monologue about boutique resort growth in Southeast Asia, Benjamin couldn't sit still. So he left, wandered, let the tension drain from his shoulders as the city breathed around him. And, of course, because fate had clearly decided to make him its personal chew toy, Jacob was already there, sitting on a stone bench in front of the Hotel de Celestins, ankles crossed, eyes closed, head tilted back like he was waiting for the universe to drop someone into his lap. Benjamin stopped. "Stalking me?" he asked dryly. Jacob opened one eye. "You're the one who walked into my dramatic nighttime brooding session." Benjamin exhaled, hands in his pockets. "That game, you didn't have to." "I know," Jacob said, standing, "but I wanted to touch you again. Even for a second." Benjamin's throat tightened. "That's not fair. Neither was being ripped away from you at 19, Jacob replied, stepping closer. "But life's not big on fairness, is it?" They stood in silence, the space between them buzzing. "You could have written back," Jacob said quietly. "One message. One line. Anything." Benjamin swallowed. "I couldn't." "Bullshit. I'm serious." Benjamin's voice cracked, green eyes glinting under the streetlight. "I was a wreck. Every time I read one of your emails, I stopped functioning. I was failing classes, flaking on shifts. I'd read your words and want to hop the next flight to Heathrow. I couldn't do it." Jacob stared, jaw clenched. "So you ghosted me? I loved you too much to be your pen pal." That shut him up. Benjamin sat beside him, shoulders barely touching. Jacob spoke first. "You think I didn't go crazy wondering what I did wrong? If you were okay? If I meant nothing?" "You meant everything," Benjamin said. "That's why it hurt like hell to keep reading your words. You were living a new life. I was stuck in the old one, hoping time would do what it never does, fix feelings." Jacob let that hang in the air. "I kept every message you ever sent," Benjamin added, voice low. "Every picture, every video, even at one where you played guitar shirtless and called it a cultural offering." Jacob laughed, truly laughed. "God, that video was so bad. It was hot." Jacob tilted his head, eyes searching. "Are you happy, Ben?" Benjamin hesitated. "Sometimes. With him." He didn't answer. Jacob stood, brushing his hands off. "You know what's wild? I didn't come to Lion looking for you. I came to talk about party games and brand synergy." Benjamin smirked. "You suck at synergy." "True," Jacob admitted. "But I'm still here." Talking to the one person who still turns my brain into static. Benjamin stood, meeting his gaze. I never stopped loving you. That's the problem. Jacob stepped in, closer than was safe. That's not a problem, Ben. That's the answer. Then he leaned in, just close enough to let Benjamin feel the heat of his breath, before pulling away. Good night, Jacob said softly, and walked off into the night, leaving Benjamin alone with the echo of a truth he'd buried for far too long. Chapter 5. Love Interrupted. The breakfast buffet at the Grand Lumiere looked like a war zone for overachievers. Smoothie stations, artisanal jam towers, and at least 4 people negotiating omelet wait times like it was a hostage situation. Benjamin was on his 2nd cup of coffee and 5th attempt at pretending to read the conference packet. Clark sat across from him, calm as ever, buttering a croissant like it hadn't been 3 days of weird silences, deflected eye contact, and Benjamin acting like he forgot how to emote. So, Clark said between bites, "How's your panel prep?" Benjamin blinked. Huh? Oh, fine. Good. Great, actually. Clark sipped his espresso and watched him. Not a word. Just watched. Benjamin shifted. What? Nothing. Clark smiled, but didn't touch his eyes. You're just lying like a rookie today. Benjamin forced a laugh. I'm not lying. Clark raised an eyebrow. Ben, I've seen you handle drunk billionaires demanding 7-star service in the middle of the Caribbean. You don't fidget. You don't dodge. You're the calm in every storm. Except this week, apparently. Benjamin exhaled hard and rubbed the back of his neck. It's just, we're being back in Europe. Lot of memories. Uh-huh. Clark leaned forward, voice low, like running into an old college flame kind of memories. Benjamin froze. I'm not an idiot, Ben. I never said you were. Good. Clark said sharply, then softened. Because I saw the way you looked at him. Benjamin looked down at his coffee. It's not like that. Clark tilted his head. No, because from where I stood, it looked exactly like that. Silence fell between them, thick and hot like summer air before a thunderstorm. Clark broke it. Tell me the truth. Is he important to you? Benjamin looked up. His lips moved before his brain could catch up. I loved him since college. The words hit the table like a hammer. Clark blinked just once. Wow, I didn't mean to say that, Benjamin said quickly. But you did. He didn't deny it. Clark nodded slowly. Okay, one more question. Benjamin braced. Do you still love him? That's when the tears came. Not loud, not dramatic, just slow, quiet drops that slid down his face as he stared at the tablecloth. Yes, he whispered. I still love him. I'm sorry. Clark leaned back in his chair, eyes glassy. You could have lied, Ben. You could have told me I was wrong. You could have told me it was just nostalgia, or stress, or jet lag. I couldn't do that to you. No, because you're good. You're so good, Benjamin. That's why this hurts more. Benjamin wiped his face, voice raw. I didn't plan for this. I didn't expect him to be here. I didn't expect to feel. Everything, Clark finished. All over again. He stood up, looked down at Benjamin for a long moment. I know the way you looked at him in France. I know that look, because I've seen it in the mirror, looking at you. Benjamin broke. I loved you too, he said. I still do. Clark gave him a sad smile. But you love him more. Benjamin couldn't answer. He didn't need to. Clark reached in his jacket, pulled out the hotel key card, and set it gently on the table. Then go, he said. Go before it's too late. And just like that, Clark walked away. No tantrum, no scene, just heartbreak wrapped in dignity. Benjamin sat there, alone in the chaos of clinking silverware and empty champagne glasses, wondering when exactly his carefully curated life had detonated. And why? Deep down, it felt like the right thing had finally broken through. Chapter 6. Fireworks and Flashbacks. The rain came down hard, sheets of it pounding against the glass lobby windows of the Grand Lumiere, turning the city into a watercolor blur. Conference events had been delayed. Power flickered twice. The rooftop showcase had been canceled altogether. Attendees scattered like wet chickens, and the hotel staff scrambled to keep everything from falling apart. Benjamin? Benjamin stood by the window, staring out like the storm could wash his head clean. He hadn't gone back to the room. Clark was gone. For real. No follow-up text, no final hug. Just silence and a key card left like a tombstone for the relationship they buried over breakfast. "You look like a man waiting for a sign from God," a familiar voice said. Benjamin turned. Jacob stood behind him, damp from the rain, umbrella dripping beside him like some half-defeated weapon. "I thought you left already," Benjamin said. "I did. Got as far as the airport. Then, turn around." Jacob shrugged. "Rain delayed my exit. Or maybe divine chaos wanted one more shot." Benjamin gave a dry chuckle. "Divine chaos is a bitch." Jacob stepped closer. His shirt was clinging slightly, collar popped from a wind, eyes bluer than ever. "So you in the suit?" "Done." Benjamin nodded once. "Yeah." Jacob exhaled. "Damn. What?" "I didn't want to root for your heartbreak," he said. "But I'm not above being selfish." Benjamin turned back toward the window, jaw tight. "It's a mess, Jacob. I know. I hurt someone. Someone who didn't deserve it. I know. I don't even know if this," Benjamin motioned vaguely between them, "us is something that's still real, or if it's just unfinished business dressed up in nostalgia." Jacob's voice dropped. "You want to know if this is still real?" Benjamin looked at him, fully this time. And Jacob stepped in, closed the space. "No more games. You remember that summer before I left?" Jacob asked softly. "The cabin weekend with that cheap rose, and we got caught skinny dipping by those hikers." Benjamin laughed despite himself. "You told them we were performance artists staging a protest about the over-sexualization of towel racks." Jacob smiled. "You laughed so hard you snorted wine through your nose." Benjamin's smile cracked wider. Jacob took another step. "That night, after everyone fell asleep, you looked at me like I was your whole world. I've never forgotten that look. And right now, you're looking at me the same way." The power flickered again. Lights dimmed, casting long shadows through the empty lobby. Jacob's voice went lower. "Benji, if this is nostalgia, then I've been living in it for 11 years. Every photo I took on tour, every city I performed in, I looked for you in the crowd." Benjamin's breath hitched. Jacob leaned in, eyes locked. "Let me find you now." And then he kissed him. Not soft, not questioning, but deep, slow, like reclaiming something sacred. Benjamin melted into it, hands gripping Jacob's soaked shirt, mouths clashing, years of ache and guilt and love exploding between them. The world outside kept storming. But here, Benjamin was home. When they finally pulled back, both breathing hard, Jacob touched his forehead to Benjamin's. "Still feel like unfinished business?" Benjamin's lips curved. "No. Feels like something I was too scared to finish the first time." Jacob's eyes shimmered. "Then let's finish it right." Chapter 7. Return to the States. The hum of the airplane engine was the only sound Benjamin could focus on. He'd barely slept. 36 hours of emotional whiplash had left his body wired and his brain fried. The flight from Lyon to JFK felt like purgatory. Long, suspended, judgment-free, but not consequence-free. Clark hadn't contacted him. And Jacob? Jacob had kissed him like time had stopped. Then they'd sat in that lobby until dawn, talking, really talking. About life. About what went wrong. About who they'd become. But there were no promises. Just a kiss. Just the truth. Now Benjamin sat in his apartment in Brooklyn, unpacked suitcase still by the door, lights low, the city buzzing just beyond the windows. It should have felt like a return to normal. It didn't. It felt like he was wearing someone else's life. The apartment still smelled like Clark's cologne. His shirts still hung neatly in the closet. Photos on the wall still showed smiling vacations, matching linen, boat rides with fake champagne. And Benjamin couldn't look at a single one without guilt gut-punching him. A knock at the door startled him. He opened it to find Alex, their mutual friend, and Clark's coworker. Sharp-eyed, always composed. "Hey," she said simply. "Can I come in?" Benjamin nodded. "Yeah, sure." She walked in like she already knew what she'd find. Looked at the suitcase. Looked at the silence. "Clark told me." Benjamin sat on the arm of the couch. "Told you what?" "That you broke up. That he let you go." Benjamin stared at the floor. "I didn't plan any of it. I didn't expect to see Jacob again. I didn't want to hurt him. Alex studied him. I believe you. But you still did." "I know." Silence. "He's not angry," she said, surprising him. He's sad, really sad, but also calm. Like he knew. Benjamin nodded slowly. Because he did. Clark always sees the truth before I do. He said he saw the way you looked at Jacob, that you never looked at him that way. Benjamin's chest tightened. He's wrong. I love Clark. I still love him. But not like that. Benjamin shook his head. No, not like that. Alex stood to leave. At the door, she paused. So what now? Benjamin looked out the window. Now I figure out if what I feel for Jacob is just a ghost, or if it's something I'm finally ready to chase. Alex smiled faintly. Then you better move. Ghosts don't wait around forever. She left. Benjamin stood alone, the quiet roaring in his ears. He walked to the bookshelf, pulled out a worn envelope tucked behind some travel guides. His hand trembled. Inside were the old photos Jacob had mailed him a decade ago. London, Brighton. Jacob holding up a sign that said, "Wish you were here." Benjamin ran a thumb over the faded ink. Then he picked up his phone, typed out a message. "Hey, I'm back. I think I finally know what I want." He hovered, then pressed send. Chapter 8. Letting Go. The wine bar on 14th was quiet. Dim lighting, jazzy background hum, half-full glasses of Malbec, and too much unspoken history sitting between two men who had loved each other the best they knew how. Clark looked tired. Not broken, not bitter, just tired in the way people are when they've already cried the important tears and are now coasting on empty, waiting for the paperwork of grief to file itself. Benjamin stirred his glass, eyes fixed on the dark red swirl. "Thanks for meeting me." Clark sipped his wine. "I figured I'd rather say goodbye in a place that didn't smell like damp laundry and roommate tension." Benjamin winced. "Fair." They sat in silence a moment longer. The kind that used to feel comfortable, easy. Now it just sat between them like a third party neither had invited. "I got your message," Clark said, finally. "The one after you landed." Benjamin nodded. "I owed you more than just silence." Clark raised an eyebrow. "You think?" "I'm sorry." "You keep saying that," Clark replied, voice calm, steady. "But I don't want your apology. I want your honesty." Benjamin looked up, met his gaze. Clark leaned forward. "Do you love him?" "Yes." "Did you love me?" "Yes." "Do you still?" Benjamin's throat clenched. "In a way, yeah. I think a part of me always will." Clark nodded. "But you'd leave me again if it meant being with him." Benjamin didn't answer. He didn't have to. Clark let out a slow breath, then smiled. A soft, sad thing. "You know what pisses me off the most?" Benjamin braced. "What?" "That I get it." Clark shook his head. "I saw the way you looked at him in Lion. I knew. The way you tightened up just hearing his voice. The way your eyes flicked to him even when you pretended not to care. You didn't even realize you were doing it." "I tried, Clark. I really did." "I know you did. But love doesn't always listen to reason, does it?" Clark leaned back, glass in hand. "You gave me the best version of you that was available. I just wasn't the one with the password to the lock part." Benjamin swallowed the lump rising in his throat. "I want you to know something," Clark said, gaze steady. "I'm not angry with you. Not anymore. But it does hurt. Watching the person I love walk away, and knowing it's not because they don't love me. It's because they love someone else more." Benjamin exhaled shakily. "You didn't deserve this." "No," Clark agreed. "But I'll be okay. I've lost good things before, and I've found better ones later." Benjamin smiled faintly. "You will." Clark drained the rest of his wine and stood. "Just don't waste it. If you're going to walk into the past, make sure it's something that actually leads somewhere." Benjamin stood too. "It already feels like home." Clark hesitated. Then, almost like a reflex, he leaned in and hugged him. Tight, strong, final. "Goodbye, Benjamin." "Goodbye, Clark." And just like that, Clark walked out of the bar, back into the city, into a life without Benjamin in it. No fireworks. No slam of the door. Just closure. Clean. Brutal. Real. Chapter 9. All roads lead to him. The arrivals hall at Heathrow was loud. Babies crying, luggage thudding, overhead announcements droning in 2 languages. It smelled like exhaustion and bad airport coffee. Benjamin had never felt more alive in his life. He stood in front of the glass partition, scanning every face in the crowd, heart doing full-on cardio under his crisp black coat. Jet lag? Non-existent. Anxiety? Absolutely feral. But under it all, hope. God, he hadn't let himself feel hope in years. It had taken all of 1 week back in the States to unravel everything. Clark was gone. His apartment was too clean. His job, once his identity, felt like a costume. And Jacob? Jacob was still on the other side of an ocean. So Benjamin booked the flight. No overthinking, no overplanning. Just go. Because if Jacob was still Jacob, and if that kiss meant what he thought it did, then this wasn't some nostalgic fantasy. This was the second chance. Finally, a voice. Flight 177 from Rome. Now disembarking. Benjamin turned. There he was. Jacob Martin, rolling a suitcase with one hand and holding his guitar case in the other, still looking like a walking mixtape of charm and chaos. Sunglasses hanging off his shirt collar, hair a little longer, eyes scanning the crowd like he was hunting a ghost. Until their eyes met. And then he stopped. For a full, breathless second, Jacob just stared, like Benjamin was a hallucination conjured by international layovers and wishful thinking. Benjamin smiled. Hey, Jacob blinked. What the hell are you doing here? I came for you. Jacob set his bags down slowly. You came to London. Without texting. Without warning. Without a goddamn plan. Benjamin stepped forward. That sounds like something you would do. Yeah, Jacob said, still stunned. But you're you. You schedule your meltdowns. Benjamin laughed. Turns out, I only schedule things I'm sure of. Jacob's brow furrowed. And you're sure of this? Benjamin nodded. I've been sure of you since I was 20. I just didn't have the guts to admit it. Jacob looked at him, really looked like he was trying to absorb every inch of this man who had haunted his inbox, his dreams, his damn heart. Then he whispered, Do you know how long I've waited for you to say that? I think I do now. Jacob stepped forward, chest to chest. You ruined my entire life plan, Tremblay. Yeah, because now I have to rewrite all of it. Around you. Benjamin grinned. I've got a few spreadsheets that can help. And then Jacob kissed him. Right there in the middle of Heathrow arrivals, between a crying toddler and a jaded customs officer, Benjamin and Jacob finally, fully collided. No half measures. No maybes. Just the kind of kiss that says, it's always been you. When they pulled apart, Jacob was grinning like an idiot. Now what? He asked. Benjamin took his hand. Now we go home. Wherever that is. Jacob raised an eyebrow. You mean my tiny flat with no dishwasher and a neighbor who thinks he's in a ska band? I meant us, genius. Jacob laughed. You're insane. I'm yours. Chapter 10. Always was, always will be. 2 years later. The Mediterranean sun poured through the windows of the villa like honey, lazy and golden, touching everything with the warmth of a life finally lived without apology. Benjamin stood barefoot in the kitchen, wearing linen pants and absolutely nothing else, flipping pancakes like a man who'd once micromanaged champagne service for billionaires and now cared mostly about whether the syrup was warm enough. From the patio came the sound of an acoustic guitar and a very off-key rendition of Elton John's Your Song. Benjamin smirked. Jacob, if you murder that chorus one more time, I'm reporting you to Interpol. I'm adding flavor, Jacob shouted back. You're adding a felony. Jacob popped his head into the kitchen, wearing nothing but shorts, sunglasses, and the grin that had been driving Benjamin crazy since college. You still love me, though. Benjamin walked over and handed him a coffee. Unfortunately, yes. Jacob sipped. God, I miss this place. Missed it. We live here. Yeah, but I just got back from 3 weeks on a floating karaoke cruise with 2 elderly swingers and a man who thought he was the reincarnation of Freddie Mercury. So forgive me if I forgot what peace looks like. Benjamin laughed, leaned against the doorframe, and took him in. The curls, the sun-kissed skin, the chaos. Still Jacob. Still his. Jacob looked up. You okay? Benjamin nodded. More than okay. They didn't always talk about the years they lost. Sometimes it bubbled up. Regrets, what-ifs, old wounds healed but still sensitive. But mostly they live now. Fully. Together. Jacob walked over, wrapped an arm around his waist. You remember that stupid promise you made? Which one? That if we ever found our way back to each other, you'd let me sing at our wedding. Benjamin groaned. I was drunk. You were in love. Same thing. Jacob grinned. Too late to back out now. Benjamin blinked. Wait. Are we talking actual wedding talk, or... Jacob pulled a small velvet box from the back of his waistband like it was nothing. I figured it's time. Benjamin stared. Inside the box was a simple ring. Matte gold. Understated. Perfect. You're doing this now? In our kitchen? While pancakes are burning. Jacob shrugged. Yeah, because I can. Because I don't want another 11 years to pass before I ask the one person I've ever really loved to be mine again. Benjamin's eyes filled fast and hot. You absolute idiot. Jacob smiled. Is that a yes, or? Benjamin kissed him. Slow. Deep. Like every answer he never had the words for. When they pulled back, he whispered, It's always been yes. Jacob rested his forehead against Benjamin's. Then it's always been you. And outside, the sun kept shining. The world kept spinning. But in that kitchen, barefoot, burning pancakes, two hearts still tangled after all this time. Everything was finally exactly where it belonged.